How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to On the Ball and welcome back to another transfer update for you guys, and some big names to talk about today, starting off with Victor Oshimen of Napoli, as Corriere dello Sport are reporting that contract negotiations between Oshimen and Napoli have stalled, which has opened the door for Chelsea and Manchester United in terms of the race. He is got a contract till 2025, so he still does have time. So that begs the question, do they make the move now and maximise the amount that they can get, or do they play another season with Oshimen and run the risk of maybe Chelsea and Manchester United getting targets in those areas?
I don't think he's going to go to Chelsea or Man United this summer. I actually would keep an eye on PSG, though, with potentially the Mbappe news, which we'll talk about in a bit. But that could definitely be an option. If I was Napoli, I'll try and keep him. Look, you want to build on winning Serie A last season. I don't think you want to, you know, he's so important to them last season, the goals he was scoring, and you don't want to rip up that team that they had last season with something special. So you want to keep that as much as possible. The contract negotiations is a problem, but I think it's something that he's got to prove that he's still going to be consistent over, many, many seasons. So I think it's just one of those things where I don't think Man United or Chelsea are going to pay the money this summer, but maybe PSG.
And you're talking about like a hefty fee, probably around like the best part of 200 million. I mean, you're probably going to be talking about him. I mean, when you're looking at Chelsea, they've got Jackson now, they've got Nkunku, they've got players in that area. You're looking at Manchester United, they're looking to get Rasmus Højlund in, but I don't think Man United did go anywhere near close to 200 million. So yeah, I think you're probably right. PSG is probably the only viable option, unless Real Madrid pushed a button and go for a Victor Oshimen, but that kind of, where does that leave Kylian Mbappe?
Exactly.
But now let's talk about Kylian Mbappe, and RMC Sport saying that Chelsea and Saudi club Al Hilal have begun the process to try sign PSG forward Kylian Mbappe, who has not travelled with the club to their pre-season tour. This is a funny one. Marseille are claiming that the clubs interested to sign Kylian Mbappe are Real Madrid, Al Hilal, Chelsea, Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur.
Come on.
And Loic Tanzi is saying that PSG have received a verbal offer from a Saudi Arabia club for Kylian Mbappe. The transfer fee is higher than the 222 million of the Neymar transfer. And L'Equipe are reporting that there is practically no chance that Mbappe agrees to join any club other than Real Madrid. So, I mean, it leaves PSG in a very strange situation where they know he only wants to join one club, which is Real Madrid. Real Madrid know that he only wants to join one club, which is them, and he's got 1 year left in his contract. And look, Real Madrid probably want to get it sorted this summer, but if they do get it sorted this summer, you'll probably talk about a very cut price fee, and if it lasts another year, then it's a free transfer. So PSG are not going to get what they want.
Definitely not, and it's a very awkward situation because he only wants Real Madrid, and as you say, he's only got a year left. So the whole plan at the moment, I think Real Madrid are in his ear saying, not even saying push to leave. It's almost like it's almost in Real Madrid's favour if he pushes to stay, because all of a sudden they can get him on a free next year. So they're probably of the opinion like, just stay a season at PSG, play your last year of your contract, don't sign, and then he has all the power and he can freely join whoever he wants, and Real Madrid don't have to pay a transfer fee. So it's really put PSG in a very awkward situation. They penned an open letter calling out Kylian Mbappe on Saturday. It's turning into a very, very ugly situation between the two. But I don't know what next season looks like if Mbappe continues to dig his heels in and refuses to leave, essentially, and says, I'm staying here, I'm going to see out my contract. What does next season look like for him and PSG? There's rumours that they're going to ban him from the squad. They're not even going to include him in like the Champions League squad and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know what next season looks like if he stays.
Yeah, it's an absolute mess on all parts, to be honest. And I think that there will be some sort of compromise between Real Madrid and PSG at some point this summer. But like you say, Real Madrid are completely calm on the situation. They don't need to do anything. They know they can get him on a free. But I'm sure they'll prefer him in for this season if they can do it. But it's kind of like wasted money, isn't it?
I wouldn't say it's wasted money, but it's money that, especially if they're going to demand over 100 million or so, like, they just don't need to do it. They can just wait a year. It's a bit unnecessary. There's no rush for him. They've still got a pretty good team even without him anyway, so they can compete next season, even without Mbappe. Obviously, Benzema's gone now, so they're clearly hunting for a striker. But like, I think Madrid in a ideal world probably would like him this summer, but they don't need to spend 100 million. They can just wait it out.
As well, though, they don't really have a striker going into this season. So what do they do with this season if they do wait for Mbappe?
Maybe get a short. No, they did sign Joselu. So it's a short-term solution. It's not great, but is what it is. What would you rather do? Have Joselu for a season or spend the 100 million on, or whatever it is, 150 million on Mbappe for this season? But
surely, if they have Mbappe in for this season, that gives them a real big chance of going and winning that Champions League, and you get that money back.
If they win but there's a lot of pressure to win the Champions League.
Yeah,
I mean they could do it. For sure, but I don't know if it's worth necessarily spending the money a year in advance when, getting someone like Mbappe on a free opens up a lot more avenues financially. Probably they just don't need to spend the money. There's no need to do it. They can probably have a cut-off price like 80 million or something, and no need to spend any more than that.
Yeah, and I guess at some point PSG will have to accept, because it's better than losing him on a free, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very ugly situation though.
Let's move on and let's talk about the Morocco goalkeeper Yassine Bounou. Santi Aouna saying that PSG have made a verbal offer of 12 million euros plus bonuses. The Spanish club are holding out for 20 million euros, though. I saw some reports saying Bayern are interested in him as well. I don't really get why they're trying to sign Bounou. Does he want to go and just sit on the bench at PSG in replacement for Donnarumma? I just don't get that.
Yeah, I mean, they've had rotation options before. I mean, Navas and Donnarumma were obviously battling out for a time when they were together. So they're looking for a good backup keeper now. And I think a lot of top clubs like PSG have always looked to have a really good backup keeper. So from their point of view, it makes sense. But yeah, from Bounou's point of view, he's now 32 or so. Maybe you never know what happens in football. Maybe he's banking on the fact that Donnarumma could get injured and all of a sudden he's number one. I don't know. It's a very strange one because he's obviously been very good for Sevilla. They won the Europa League last season. He was a big part of that. He had a great World Cup for Morocco as well. So does he want to see his career stagnate? It's quite odd why he would do that. But I guess maybe he's going to be very well paid. Maybe he's been told in the Champions League he'll play or something. I don't know. It's a bit of an odd one why he would agree to do it though.
May as well go out to Saudi and get triple the amount of money, never mind double the amount of money.
Yeah, true, exactly, if that's an opportunity.
Next up, let's talk about Ismaila Sarr. Foot Mercato saying that the Watford winger is closing in on a move to Marseille despite interest from Everton. I think it's probably a good move for Sarr. He's probably needed to get out of Watford for a couple of years now, ever since they got relegated. And I think he'll have a good career wherever he goes. I think Everton would be a good move for him as well. But if he goes out to France and Marseille, you'd probably say he'd be one of the leading players in the French league.
Yeah, he's starting to stagnate is his problem. He's been at Watford for too long. He needed to leave when they got relegated. The move never quite materialised because Watford were kind of demanding too much money. And I feel like sometimes players in that position, when they want to leave and they don't get that move, I think when their heart's not really in it, they can start to stagnate a bit, and I think that's what's happening with Ismaila Sarr. So I think he desperately needs to move. I think he's a player with so much potential, such an exciting player to watch as well. And I think if Marseille can get him back to that form he was showing in the Premier League, yeah, I agree. They've got a real good player on their way. So I think it could actually be a bargain in the future if he reaches his potential.
Next up, let's talk about Callum Hudson-Odoi, the Chelsea winger. Romano claims that Lazio are in advanced talks to sign Callum Hudson-Odoi off Chelsea, which is an interesting one because if you remember, like when Hudson-Odoi was breaking through, had all those bids from Bayern Munich for big money. You're talking about a player who was the leading candidate to go on and be a world star in the Chelsea academy. I was watching a podcast with Reece James' dad not long ago, and they were talking about Hudson-Odoi, and they were saying like the talent that this guy has was absolutely second to none in that Chelsea academy, and there were some really good players coming through at that time, Reece James being one of them, and everyone is kind of shocked with the way he's kind of turned out because it hasn't really gone to plan for Callum.
I think it's just look. I don't know him personally, obviously, but from the outside looking in, I think he just got too much too early. Like because he was breaking through the Chelsea team, and to ward off offers from Bayern Munich, they gave him like close to 200 grand a week. And
really? Was it that much?
He was on like 100. He's on like 180 grand a week. He's on big contract. And this was after only a handful of first team appearances. But because he was getting interest from a lot of big clubs because of his talent, this guy is unbelievably talented. But because he was getting interest, they decided instead of either taking a decent offer from Bayern or allowing him or not satiating that kind of big offer he had, they decided to give him that big contract. And imagine at 20 years old, you've barely played, and you're already on 180 grand a week. It's almost like a lot of players can lose their motivation in that scenario. And I think Hudson-Odoi has badly stagnated over the last few years. He was at loan at Leverkusen last season, and he really didn't show up. I think his goal contributions were very, very low. And this is in the Bundesliga, where it's a very open league, very attacking league. It's good for attacking players. And he wasn't even able to get good goal returns or any good goal contribution returns in that league as well. There's a player ready there to explode, but the problem is now he's 22, 23. Like, he's not old, but like, we've never ever seen the best of him. And when you're coming into that age, it's like, as you start to think, when is he ever going to start to show it?
Do you think this is a good move for him? Do you think that maybe having a new transfer completely on a permanent deal maybe can spark something in him, especially in the Italian league?
Potentially. I thought Leverkusen was a good move for him, but it didn't turn out to be. So, like Lazio, I don't know if that's a team that's going to be really suited to how he wants to play, to be honest. But I think making a permanent move and a fresh start, I definitely think is needed for him.
All right, well, let's move on. And we brought you the story last week about Alexander Mitrovic, how he is kicking up a fuss at Fulham to push through that move to Saudi Arabia, which will, he's desperate to make that move. He's claiming that he's never going to play for Fulham again, and he's going on strike and all this kind of stuff. Well, it seems as now that Fulham are planning for life without Alexander Mitrovic, as Romano is reporting that Fulham are now in talk to sign Raul Jimenez of Wolves. Do you think this will be a good signing for them?
Yeah, well, TalkSport are now claiming that they've agreed a deal already for $5.5 million with Fulham and Wolves. So looks like that one is definitely gaining legs. It's a very cheap price for a striker who, before his injury, was seen as one of the best strikers outside the top six.
It's a while ago now, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a shame what's happened, obviously, since the injury. He definitely hasn't been that same player. I think what really gave him that edge was that, a bit like Mitrovic, that bit of aggressive side to him, which made him an absolute nuisance to play against. And technically, he was also quite an impressive striker, but he hasn't been the same. In theory, if they can get him back to his best, he would be a very good replacement for Mitrovic. But unfortunately, I just have my doubts whether he's ever going to be that player he was pre-injury, as harsh it is to say. And as much as I would love for him to see Jimenez back to his best, because he was a brilliant striker, I guess in theory, look, $5 million, there's not much a risk, especially if they're going to bring in another one ahead of him as well. Because if they're going to get 50 million or so from Mitrovic, you'd assume they're going to. If they buy him for $5, you assume there's going to be another one as well.
They've got Carlos Vinicius as well there, or is he on loan? Was he on loan?
I think he's on loan. I think he was on loan. I don't think they signed him permanently. I'm not sure, 100% sure on that. There might have been like an option to buy or something. I'm pretty sure it was a loan deal though. You would assume there would be another striker there, because I don't think they can sign Jimenez and think just they can rely on him.
Yeah, you can't rely on that for the amount of goals that Mitrovic scored last season. It's just like, it's not feasible, to be honest. And I completely agree. If they are going to bring in a Raul Jimenez for $5 million, they have to get someone else in as well to provide some competition for him. Because if you go into your season with Raul Jimenez now as your leading striker without too many options around him, I mean, that could be relegation battle for him. That could be relegation battle, because you're taking, how many goals did he get? 15, 20 goals?
Yeah, 15, about 15.
About 15 goals? Like, I don't think Jimenez gets probably more than 6 or 7. So they really need to get those goals from somewhere. And you're looking around their squad there, and who's going to get those goals?
Yeah, and last season they were quite reliant on like Willian on the wing.
He's gone back there, hasn't he?
He's gone back there now, but I'm saying like they were heavily reliant for goals on Mitrovic. Like, they don't really have like massively goal scoring for other forwards as well. And also they're a team who don't score too many. They were very much relying on a solid defence. They won games by the odd goal. They weren't like really battering team. So all of a sudden you take those goals away from Mitrovic and you don't adequately replace them, then I agree with you. All of a sudden it could be like Sheffield United, you know what I mean? When they got promoted, they had a great first season, then things started to go wrong. If they don't get this right, it could be a very bad second season, especially with Marco Silva's future in doubt as well.
Exactly. So all is not well at Fulham. We'll have to see how that one rumbles on, but it looks as though that Raul Jimenez is going to make that move over to Craven Cottage. But that brings the transfer update to an end. Let me know in the comments section below your thoughts regarding all the news stories we brought to you today, and we'll see you next time.